All right, so welcome Nanditha, and really congratulations for your 740, Q49 and V42. So
Thank you.
tell me, I believe that you started your prep using Verbal online course. So what was your score before you started your prep?
Okay. So I was contemplating giving the GMAT exam sometime last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I went through the regular journey. That is, I got the OG, and I was waiting to kickstart, but somehow I could never get started. I did start with the GMAT prep software, and I gave a mock, and I actually got a 490 without sort of uh, any sort of preparation. I got a 490, and I was appalled. I was appalled. I was alarmed. I was just, you think of the most concerning negative adjective, and I was there. And I was not confident at all, but I've always thought that I was good at verbal because English was always a favorite subject of mine. But once I started the journey, I realized that it would require a very fine tuning, because it all came down to choosing between those last two answers, which seemed very correct. So I was looking out for a course which could give me a good understanding of verbal, because what I needed was not a complete overhaul of what I knew, but rather a brush up. And I was also looking for an environment which would keep me hooked. So I looked a lot. I searched for a lot of platforms, and somehow I found that e-GMAT was being mentioned very often, especially when it came to verbal. So I decided to take the plunge, and I purchased a subscription to the e-GMAT Verbal course on sometime in January, I believe, because I realized that I was doing prep, but it was not structured. It was just all over the place. I was doing questions, and I attended a webinar, in fact, one of the GMAT strategy webinars. And I somehow found, and there was a CR, it was a CR session, and I realized that I was supposed to have gone through the CR material, but when I started looking at those questions, it seemed alien to me. So I really wanted I realized that I had a lot more of prep to do. So that's how I began the e-GMAT course. And I must say that I've studied English, I've studied in the ICSE for all these years, but a lot of the things that I learned during this verbal course, it just hit me, in the sense, these are very simple things, but I never knew about it. Say when to use a due to versus a because, or so many things which had always been there. They were doubts. Even if you look at the parts of a sentence, how to break it down, and the first 3 hours, the first session, I think it's called, I forgot the name, but the session
Master
before the,
comprehension.
yes, I think that was excellently done. And so I went through so I know that in one of the videos you mentioned that you don't have to go through all the videos and all the questions if you think you're good to go, but I somehow found it somehow gave me a lot of comfort to go through it. And I started using that as a way to structure my GMAT prep. So I went through the SC module, and I also went through the CR module, and I found that it grounded me a lot, and it gave me a lot of the basics to go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about CR. You mentioned, so regarding CR, you mentioned that you had already prepared for CR. So how had you done your prep before you started e-GMAT?
So I had gone through the OG, I had gone through questions, and I had also used another learning tool. I had also used another online learning tool. I had gone through their videos, but somehow I found that the way it was structured, the way the course was structured, it was very interactive, and B, it always, there were some glitches. I did face some glitches for which I wrote to the team. It was not a completely smooth journey, but at the same time, it sort of makes the whole journey smoother. So with CR, I found the whole, the strengthened,
the pre-thinking.
Pre-thinking exercise very helpful, because it somehow made you think that it isn't rocket science. It's just a series of steps. And I also used the Power Score, the CR, the book to supplement my learnings. But to be honest, after doing that, I just practiced on the Scholaranium. All my verbal, that whatever practice I did, so I'll come to the Scholaranium bit a little later, but whatever practice I did was on the Scholaranium. So I found that very useful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So how would you compare Power Score strategies with the pre-thinking strategies taught in e-GMAT? Because you've done both, so I'd like to understand.
Okay. So for Power Score, I basically used Power Score because what happened was that I was using e-GMAT CR in the initial months of my prep when I started out, that is Jan, Feb, March. And somehow I had some health issues, etc. So I could not revisit the whole journey. So what e-GMAT essentially did was to give me a foundation wherein I could tackle the questions. It taught me that where I used to get confused was there are these certain trap questions where before prep you think this answer seems very right, but when you look at the course you understand that okay, this is irrelevant, or this is out of scope, or this is extrapolation. So what e-GMAT did was it helped me understand the answers and look at them in a certain viewpoint. What Power Score did was more of a it helped me understand the question better. They have these ways to understand the type of question. That way it helped me. e-GMAT helped me with the answering bit. I didn't use Power Score much. To be honest, I used it in the last 1 week of my prep just to brush up whatever I had learned. Because ultimately I was always using Scholaranium. So in a way, one of my cheat tricks was, if I was ever getting distracted, if I was ever, which I was doing a lot of times, I would just go and do some questions on the Scholaranium because somehow it gave me a confidence boost. I would just go and choose a custom set and and then just do it.
Okay. So let's talk about Scholaranium. So how did you use Scholaranium?
So when I began, I was pretty much clueless. I would just do questions randomly. And then I actually went through the video of how you should use it and how you can look at your ability.
In the YGR course, in the Your GMAT Roadmap course? Okay.
I think it was mentioned towards the end of the introductory part, how to use the Scholaranium. So initially, I was just doing it everywhere. And I particularly remember one of the lines in the video saying, it's not the number of questions that you do, but how you do it. So somehow that struck me because I had all these notebooks filled with my practice work. But then I also realized, I was asking myself, am I making progress? Because my scores were hovering around the 610 to 650 range. That's where I was at during my mocks. So towards the last 2 weeks of my prep, I was essentially doing my Scholaranium questions. I found that SC was a strong point. I would always score above 85% accuracy on the SC. Somehow SC is something I've always felt was something where I didn't have to put in too much effort because some answer would seem right to me and I would go ahead with it. But CR and RC, I realized I needed practice more than anything because the concepts were there, but it wasn't helping just like that. So I started doing a lot of practice questions, and towards the end of my exam, I wanted to do the verbal ability quiz, but there was this glass which would come and I was wondering what's happening, why can't I do the quiz? Then I realized that, okay, I've exhausted the unique pool for both. So yeah, another thing I did was I started looking at my the weak areas. And I realized there was a pattern. For example, the bold-faced questions. That is one section where I just would get confused all the time. It was so confusing. So I started practicing a lot. What I felt was that Scholaranium needs to be used very regularly and you need to just keep doing it. One good thing about it is that I love the interface. It makes you want to practice. That's something I thoroughly enjoyed about it because it was always like coming home and you know that this will be kind to you. Somehow I really like doing that. Yeah.
That's the first I've heard. This would be kind to you. So, yeah. Hello, Nandita? Yeah, Nandita?
Yeah, sorry. I
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah,
a
the
hot.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
please go.
Oh, good, good. What I was saying is that your expression that Scholaranium will be kind to you, that's that's a very unique expression.
Yeah, I think it was more because I somehow, even though it was sometimes brutal in terms of the scoring, it was very intuitive in the sense somehow I found the performance very apt. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if I was lacking in an area, it showed me that this is where you're lacking, you need to step up.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't found a verbal tool so useful.
Mm-hmm.
And I also loved the OG practice that you have along with each section.
Okay.
So
Yeah, tell me a
yeah,
bit more about it. Yeah.
yes. So the thing with the OG is that there are so many questions that
Mm-hmm.
after a while, after doing 10 questions, I become very tired out. I can't do it. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would do was instead I would just, for example, if it was RC, I started doing the OG practice on the Scholaranium, because not Scholaranium but on the course,
Mm-hmm.
because one, what it did was it gave me an online method to do the offline question, and it also showed me the time I was taking to do it, and it somehow made the whole thing so much more better. I didn't have to worry about, okay, am I doing the OG questions or not, because
Okay.
it's sort of balanced between the course material as well as this.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Okay. How about reading comprehension?
Okay, so RC, I used e-GMAT mainly for practice.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing which I was my biggest takeaway from the RC course was how to make the main point, how to form an idea about the main point. Because until then, I was reading the whole paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
but I was never making it a point to find out the summary of each paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
I would just go with an assumption, okay, this is what it's about. But what e-GMAT did was it taught me that if it's a paragraph, you have to consider each and every paragraph with equal importance.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one lesson which helped me in the main exam as well.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it, to be honest, I did not have the time to go through the entire course. So
Mm-hmm.
I briefly went through it and I just did the practice questions. So I did a lot of the OG questions on the e-GMAT portal.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now tell me, how would you said that you used to look at the skill data and you would then get feedback from it. So how did you use that? A little bit more
Okay.
detail about that. Yeah.
I would look at the time
Mm-hmm.
taken
Okay.
to answer a question, and just see how long I was taking to answer a wrong answer. And I just noticed that mostly for the wrong answers, I was taking around 1.5 to 2.5 minutes. And it was just very telling, the time taken to answer a wrong question versus
Mm-hmm.
that for a right question. That was one way.
Mm-hmm.
The second way was that I was looking at individual sections, even within CR.
Mm-hmm.
One section I was strong, the other section I was weak. So
Mm-hmm.
what I started doing towards the fad end of the practice of the prep was, I would just, until then I was doing full on verbal ability quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also enjoy verbal so much that for me it was, I loved doing it. It was more of a, yeah, let's see what it has to bring on today. But
Mm-hmm.
then I realized that there's no point in doing everything when you don't have to do an SC so much. You're decent at SC. It's telling you you're getting 85% or above consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started filtering out only the CR and the RC questions and started doing those. So
Okay.
that was very helpful. Yeah.
Okay. And how did the solutions help you in Scholaranium?
Okay. So the solutions, I think it just showed me how this question, which seems so complicated to you, it has a proper way of being looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And that every question you can actually arrive at a solution if you follow the approach.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something which Otherwise, the solution seems so hard sometimes. If you look at the OG, for example, the OG solutions, it'll be very difficult for you to read through everything, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. But for me, that way, the Scholaranium solutions were very useful. I preferred the text solutions to the video solutions because it took some time to load, and sometimes I would just not go there. But I made it a point to try and go through every solution I could, because and then I would also do the questions I got wrong, just to be sure if I'm not making the same mistakes again or not.
Okay. All right.
But I must say that the one part which really made all the difference was the SC module. It was completely overwhelming, and I think those are life lessons, because these are, for example, using such as instead of like, and so many examples. I'm trying to internalize it so that I can implement it even in other usages.
Okay. All right. Well, you already have a very good spoken English. I mean, if you were able to identify those things, it just goes to show the amount of learnings that are possible from the extent of learnings that are possible.
So, of course, yes.
Good. All right. Good. Thank you very much, Nanditha. All right. So let's talk about next steps for you.
Yes.
Are you applying right now? I can stop recording now. So.
Okay. Yeah.